Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars. Topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
Alright, and welcome to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, and I am your host, Jesse Tapia. Alright, it is Friday, end of the week, and obviously you know what we got going on today. We got Cavs Raptors segment 1, Celtics Philly segment 2, and then Wednesday's game between Utah and Houston segment 3. Segment 4, we're going to be talking about anything else going on in the world of basketball. All right, we got 2 games going on tonight. We got Houston and Jazz, game 3, and then Golden State versus New Orleans, game 3. And, I mean, the Toronto Raptors, they gotta, I don't know. That's a very odd team. I don't understand them. I don't understand why they shrink in the big moments. But nonetheless, they do. And it's just honestly kind of ridiculous, all right? Going into game 2, you figure that most talked about it being a must-win. I wasn't really on board with that because of the fact that, you still have an opportunity to take 2 in Cleveland. I know that's not very realistic, and you still have an opportunity to get 1 in Cleveland at least and get it back to game 5 at your place. But, it's just a matter of, game 2, now that we watched it and now that we know what's come from it, game 2 was definitely a must-win. Okay, it was. But nonetheless, like I said, game 2 took place on Thursday, and the Cavs won that one, 128-110. For the Cavs, you had LeBron with 43 points, 14 assists, 8 rebounds, shot 19 of 28, 1 of 3 from the three-point line. Kevin Love finally decided to show up. Where have you been, Kevin? He had 31 points, 2 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 11 rebounds, shot 11 of 21, 2 of 6 from the three-point line. George Hill had 13 points, 3 rebounds, shot 2 assists, shot 5 of 8. Kyle Korver had 5 points, shot 2 of 3 there. J.R. Smith had 15 points, shot 5 of 8, 2 of 3 from the three-point line. Off the bench, you had Jeff Green with 14 points, 2 blocks, shot 5 of 8, 4 of 6 from the three-point line. And Jeff Green is a very weird player, sort of like a wild card type guy, because of the fact that you never really know which play you're going to get on any given night. And you had Tristan Thompson, who played 15 minutes, had 2 points, 2 rebounds there. And then Jordan Clarkson, who had 5 points, shot 2 of 5, 1 of 4 from the three-point line. Rodney Hood, he played 12 minutes. Goose Egg, no points. Did have 4 rebounds, 3 assists, though. Shot 0 of 2. And then for those Raptors, those silly Raptors, you had Serge Ibaka, who played 12 minutes, had 2 points, 6 rebounds, shot 0 of 5. OG Anunoby, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, had 5 points, 1 assist, 1 steal, shot 2 of 5, 1 of 3 from the three-point line. Jonas Valanciunas had 16 points, 12 rebounds, 1 block, shot 8 of 11. Kyle Lowry played well in this one. He had 21 points, 8 assists, 4 rebounds, shot 7 of 10, 3 of 6 from the three-point line. DeMar DeRozan had 24 points, 3 assists, shot 11 of 23, 0 of 5 from the three-point line. And then off the bench, you had CJ Miles with 8 points, 3 of 5 shooting, 2 of 2 from the three-point line. Played 20 minutes in this one. Jacob Poeltl had 15 minutes played in this one, 3 of 3 from the field, had 8 points there. And then you had Fred VanVleet, who played 24 minutes, had 14 points, 4 assists, shot 5 of 10, 4 of 7 from the three-point line. And then Delon Wright played the same amount of minutes. He had 5 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, shot 2 of 4 there. All right. Toronto shot the ball 54% from the field, 40% from 3, 90% from the free throw line. But even then, so they only got to the line 11 times, which is, the Cavs got to the line 23 times. Cavs shot nearly 60% from the field, 42 from 3, and 74 from the free throw line. All right. Like I said, going into this game, I wasn't on the bandwagon of, yes, this is a must-win game for Toronto. Okay. I was thinking more logically with it because they still have an opportunity to even up the series back in Cleveland. And I just figured that Toronto was probably just going to end up winning game 2. Okay. That was not the case at all. Nope. I'm not sure really what it is, but it's like throughout the game, I mean, you saw Cleveland was winning, and by the time the second half comes, I mean, Toronto had no chance of coming back. Okay. They kept it close in the first half, second half, it was a bloodbath. I'm not really sure what it is about Toronto, but as far as Cleveland goes, I mean, you got LeBron out here who's putting up, I think he's played 9 playoff games so far, and 4 of those games, he's had 4 or 5, I think he's had 40-plus points. And it's just now we shrug our shoulders at it. We don't even care. It's like, oh, LeBron put up 40. Let me know when he does something else. Okay, let me know when he puts up 60. Let me know when he puts up 70. We've gotten to that point. Okay, LeBron having a big game is just LeBron having a normal game now. All right, and with the Cavs, I mean, so far this playoffs, they haven't played well as a team. Kevin Love has been non-existent. Tristan Thompson really is off and on with his minutes. Not really sure how Ty Lue wants to use him. It depends, I guess, how Ty Lue's feeling that day. Jeff Green has been very inconsistent. Kyle Korver's been okay. J.R. Smith seems like I have a great game or one good game for every 4 bad games, it seems. And then the 4 guys that they traded for have been pretty non-existent too. Okay. And it seems like those 4 guys there aren't even like top 5 players on that team. It seems like Jeff Green and all those guys get a little bit more attention there. But nonetheless, like I said, Cavs haven't been playing well, and this was the perfect time for Toronto to go out and knock off the Cavs in the playoffs. Okay, this was that year. It wasn't that last year. Probably won't be next year. It was this year. Okay. Toronto has always been a team where you pretty much, like we saw them this year, okay? Regular season. Once they overtook Boston for that number 1 seed, they just took off with it and never looked back. Okay, played extremely well. And we figured, well, with me, before the playoffs started, I was like, I'm not really going to believe in the Raptors because of the fact that it's the Raptors. And then I was like, you know what? That's pretty lazy there. Can't be doing it. So I'm going to believe. Okay, I picked them to beat the Wizards. They did that. I picked them to beat the Cavs in 6 games, and it's not going to happen. Okay? I'm not really sure what it is with Toronto, whether or not they just completely shrink because it's LeBron, or whether they completely shrink because it's the playoffs. But either way, they are shrinking. Okay? I'm like, the Raptors made a dinosaur seem so weak. Okay? Like, it's ridiculous. Going into the series, I mean, it was Toronto was playing well, Cleveland was playing bad. So, you pick Toronto in 6. And, I mean, I guess it's just one of those things where you can't pick against a LeBron-led team. Okay, I don't think we've ever seen a player do something like this. People will point to Kobe in those last few years he had when he was winning titles with Pau Gasol and all them, but Pau Gasol is a whole lot better than anything the Cavs got. Pau Gasol at that time was a top 5 power forward. Lamar Odom was a great 6-man. And then you had other guys who could do a certain job. Then you had that Kobe Bryant guy. Okay. The Cavs really have Kevin Love, who I don't think anyone really regards him as a top 5 power forward. I can't remember the last time anyone regarded him as a top 5 player at any position. Hasn't played well, other than Game 2 yesterday. Okay. Guys like J.R. Smith, Jeff Green, I mean, come on now. LeBron's out here pretty much just dominating. But that was a team performance for Game 2. Okay, I'm not trying to take away the Game 2 performance, but I'm just trying to put some context in here. So now it's a matter of, I mean, yeah, the Raptors are down 2-0, and the worst part about it is it's not like they're going back to Toronto down 2-0. They're going to Cleveland down 2-0. Okay? I don't understand how you give up 2 games at home in the playoffs. Like, the Cavs aren't that much... I got to be careful saying this because people are going to jump on me for it. But, I mean, the Cavs, as far as on paper, aren't better than the Raptors. They do have the best player. But, again, we don't play on paper. It's just a matter of... You figure the Raptors would be a whole lot better here. Okay? You figured they'd pretty much wake up for the series, show up, and we got to get a win here. And it's just a matter of, it's not going to happen. Okay? They go into Cleveland, they lose game 3. I think they're going to get swept. Okay? I think they will. And that's just ridiculous to see that the number 1 seed could end up getting swept in the second round of the playoffs. It's not like when we had Atlanta playing Cleveland. I think it was, the Eastern Conference Finals, and Cleveland ended up sweeping them. It's not like that at all, because at least that team made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Okay? With the Raptors, it's a matter of they get scared. They're scared. Okay? They are. I feel like it's fair to say that. And then you see all the jokes about it. Now they're calling it LeBronto instead of Toronto, saying that LeBron owns real estate in all their heads. It's not a good look for Toronto here. Okay? I'm not really sure what type of game plan they got drawn up for game 3, but whatever it is, it needs to work, because if not, it's over. Okay? The last few years, the Raptors' problem has been Kyle Lowry. Hasn't played well in the playoffs, and now, it's a matter of what's your excuse? Because Kyle Lowry's been playing pretty good. Okay? Hasn't been a bad player at all or anything like that. DeMar DeRozan's been good. The team has been playing well. They put up both 110-plus points in both games 1 and games 2. Maybe it's the defense. Maybe Dwayne Casey's getting out-coached here. Who knows? Okay? But with the way the Raptors have played, it's just same old Toronto. I think that was the title of Wednesday's podcast. I thought maybe that was a little harsh, but it turns out to be true. This team doesn't change. Okay? And are we going to have the conversation of maybe they need to blow this core up? I don't think they do. But there's something that's still missing with this team. Okay? DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry just aren't the leaders that you need. So they need something more. I'm not really sure what it is. Okay, but they need something. Maybe it's just one of those things where it's like the it factor. Okay, you're not sure what it is, but you know when you see it. Toronto didn't have it. All right, so we'll see. But going back to Cleveland down 2-0, not very ideal for the Raptors. So we're going to wrap it up here. Like I said, next up we're going to be talking about the Celtics and Philly for Game 2. So stay tuned, and we will be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC basketball podcast. So far, we've just talked Cavs, Raptors. Now we're going to be talking Celtics, Sixers. All right, and for that first segment, we basically just talked about the fact that Toronto just can't show up when it matters most, especially against the Cavs. So, the Cavs, if they win Game 3 in Cleveland, they could just very well sweep. And I think probably, I'll say it's over in 5. But nonetheless, I picked Raptors in 6. I was wrong. It's still a possibility. If the Raptors won 4 in a row. But, do you see that happening? I don't. All right, so now we're going to be talking Celtics-Sixers. For Game 1 of the series, we had the Celtics winning, and Celtics pretty much dominated from start to finish. Ben Simmons put up, 18, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists. Still didn't look great or anything like that. You could tell he struggled a bit. So we were going to see if he made any adjustments for Game 2, and turns out he didn't. But we'll get into that in a bit. Celtics won this one 108-103. For the Sixers, you had Dario Saric with 14 points, 3 assists, 9 rebounds, shot 4 of 13, 2 of 6 from the three-point line. Robert Covington had 22 points, 9 rebounds, shot 8 of 15, 4 of 7 from the three-point line. Joel Embiid had 20 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, shot 8 of 22, 1 of 6 from the three-point line. Joel Embiid was good, but you could tell he was struggling a bit shooting the ball. Ben Simmons, like I said, struggled in this one. Had 1 point, 7 assists, 5 rebounds, 5 turnovers, shot 0 of 4 there. JJ Redick had 23 points, 2 assists, 3 rebounds, shot 9 of 17, shot 5 of 9 from the three-point line. And then you had Aaron Ilyasova off the bench with 4 points, 6 rebounds, shot 2 of 6. TJ McConnell had 8 points, 5 assists, 2 steals, shot 4 of 4 in 17 minutes off the bench. And then you had Marco Bellinelli with 11 points, 3 assists, shot 5 of 11, 1 of 4 from the three-point line. No Markelle Fultz in this one. He didn't play at all. And, I mean, it's just a matter of maybe he needs to start getting minutes, because Philly probably got to switch something up, because they shot 43% from the field, 39% from 3, 71% from the free throw line. For the Celtics, you had Al Horford with 13 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, shot 5 of 9 there. Jason Tatum had 21 points, 2 assists, 2 rebounds, shot 7 of 14, 2 of 4 from the three-point line. Aaron Baines, he had 5 points, 4 rebounds, shot 2 of 6. It was a minus 16, so I mean, it wasn't relatively great out there. It did hit a 3, though, which was a surprise. Marcus Smart had 19 points, 3 assists, 5 rebounds, shot 6 of 13, 4 of 10 from the three-point line. And then you had Terry Rozier, who had 20 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds, shot 6 of 15, 4 of 9 from the three-point line. Off the bench, you had Marcus Morris with 11 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 3 of 8, 2 of 3 from the three-point line. I feel like Marcus Morris probably could have shot the ball a little bit better yesterday, but nonetheless, I mean, it seems like just for the first 2 games, he hasn't really been locked down on it, you know? There's just something been missing with him. Jaylen Brown had 13 points, 4 rebounds, shot 5 of 12, 2 of 5 from the three-point line. If you remember, Jaylen Brown been dealing with a hamstring injury and wasn't known if he was going to play in Game 2, but nonetheless, pretty much he said that he went against pretty much what the trainers wanted for him, wanted him to sit, said he was going to play, and he played pretty well. Okay, only played 25 minutes, but nonetheless, he did a job. Okay, so now let's talk about the game. First quarter comes, and Philly, you could already tell from the start. Okay, this is going to be a completely different team from Game 1, like they talked about after Game 1. All right, after Game 1, they were talking about the fact that, I mean, the way they played that game was terrible, and it'd be a big difference from there to Game 2, and it was. Okay, it was big time. They looked a whole lot better here, especially in the first quarter. JJ Redick from the start was a monster, couldn't miss, didn't matter who you put on him. I mean, Marcus Smart, who is one of the best defenders in the league, didn't really have an answer for him, and I mean, it doesn't matter. It's not like JJ Redick was just hitting open shots, but I mean, the guy was hitting with hands in his face and all that. Okay. Joel Embiid was doing all right in the first quarter, too. I think Philly ends the first quarter up, 31-22. Second quarter comes. Philly ends up jumping out to like a 22 or 25 point lead, I think it was. I believe it was 22. And it's just, then it happened. Okay. Philly, going into this series, they were the better team, but there was a reason why I picked the Celtics, okay? And that was because of, 1, coaching, and 2, experience. Yes, this Celtics team is very young. Terry Rozier is only in his 3rd year. Jason Tatum's a rookie. Jaylen Brown's in year 2. Okay, then you got Semi Ojeleye, who's a rookie. Let's see. Marcus Morris has never really been in the playoffs. Guys like Shane Larkin, who are in Spain. All right, we got a lot of guys who've never seen the playoffs or just young players in the league. Okay. But nonetheless, I mean, guys like Rozier, Brown, they've all been in the playoffs the last couple of years. Brown in his rookie year, and you got Horford. Okay, who's got the experience. So that's one of the reasons why I picked the Celtics. And I figured there would be a moment in this series where you could tell, yeah, Boston's a more experienced, more well-coached team. And that you kind of saw that when Philly gave up their 22-point lead, okay? Because let's say this, Philly's up 22, shooting the ball well, Boston's not really getting anything going, and then Boston hits a couple of shots, gets a couple of stops. You see, oh, you know what? Boston's about to start a run, because you could usually tell. And sure enough, they get on it, okay? And with Boston, pretty much, it's like Boston's like back and forth, boom, 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 just quick paced, hitting you in the mouth type stuff, okay? And with Philly, you'd expect with Boston on this run for them to take some time off the shot clock and slow the game down a bit, okay? Because of the fact that that's what you do when a team's on a run. All right, you try and slow the game down just to keep the momentum on your side. All right, get good possessions, get good shots. Nope, Philly didn't do that once. Okay, Philly kept deciding to take contested 3 after contested 3, and even just 3 after 3 instead of getting a good shot in the paint. Okay, so that allowed Boston to continue pretty much. I mean, shot clock wasn't wasted and gave Boston a bunch of time. Boston eventually. Like Boston just cutting down, chipping away. Then you figure, okay, well, Philly seems a little bit flustered. Let's call a timeout. All right, and you're waiting for that timeout to get called. And it never happens. Brett Brown, I don't know if he forgot that he had timeouts. Maybe it was just a matter of he wasn't paying attention. But nonetheless, yeah, he didn't call a timeout. And Boston eventually gets the Phillies lead down to 4. Okay. And, I mean, it was just ridiculous, the fact that Brett Brown didn't call timeout. Like, this was probably the worst coaching I've seen in these 2 games during that little stretch. Okay? I mean, you got Terry Rozier out here pretty much hitting transition pull-up threes. Obviously, as a coach, you got to know, okay, yeah, there's a problem. We need to stop that. They're way too hot right now. Okay? And he just refused. He didn't call timeout. So then Boston gets the lead down to 4. First half is over. Second half comes. Boston comes out hot. Philly comes out playing well, though, and it's a back-and-forth game. Eventually, Boston overtakes the lead. Okay? And Philly eventually gets it back. I think they were up 5 in the fourth quarter. And, I mean, they just couldn't hold on to it. Boston ends up hitting the most important shots of the game, and they win. All right? And one thing with Philly in this game was Ben Simmons was by far their worst player. Okay? Ben Simmons looked like he hit the rookie wall in that game. And it looks like he hit it hard. The guy was flustered. After the game, he was talking about how he was overthinking everything. I mean, it was just a matter of he was in his own head. The fans were in his head. Everyone was in his head. Okay? And when I say like he was the worst player on the floor for the Sixers, I mean, I don't feel like I'm saying anything wrong there. I think he finished at what, a minus 26? Okay? Just was brutal. Only had 1 point. Boston's game plan was to clog up the paint entirely. Okay, you'd have Ben Simmons at the three-point line with the ball. No one's coming up to guard him. You got Baines and Horford, all right, at the elbows of the paint, just waiting for him to try and drive in because they know it's not going to work. And then as far as Philly's other wing players, I mean, Boston did a good job to close out on their shots. All right, so you give them some space, but if you close out the right way, then you have no problem there. And that's exactly what happened. So Ben Simmons, I mean, he didn't play for a lot of the third quarter and some of the fourth. You had T.J. McConnell out there, and that's when Philly was looking their best in the second half. That's when they took the lead with McConnell out there. Okay? And I understand the whole thing of, I mean, Ben Simmons is your future, and as a rookie, you need to have him out there so he gets just a little taste of this playoff experience. But there's a point where there's that, but you also need to win the game. Okay? I'm not going to go out and say that if the Sixers leave T.J. McConnell out there, they win the game. But there's a point of if you leave him out there, he gives you the best chance to win that game. Okay? And I'm not going out saying start T.J. McConnell in Game 3 for the rest of the series or anything like that. But there's a point where if you're riding the hot hand, you don't ditch the hot hand. Okay? You don't at all. And that's what they did. And I brought up Fultz earlier. Maybe they need to start him or something. And I'm bringing that up because of the fact that Boston knows that you don't need to guard Ben Simmons. Clog up the paint and you'll be fine. Ben Simmons isn't taking a shot, okay? He refuses to shoot. And it's honestly kind of ridiculous, okay? I understand that you don't really have too much faith in your jump shot, but there's a point where you got to at least try it, okay? And, I mean, it's just a matter of, like, he'd drive in, Boston clogs up the paint, he sees he has no lane, he just freezes. Like it's like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Okay, like, he doesn't know how to react. And that's where the coaching comes in there. The reason why I picked Boston was coaching experience and the fact that I think I talked about it on Monday's show. I figured Boston was going to have some elaborate way to stop Ben Simmons, and they do. Okay? And if you got Simmons stopped, I mean, Saric isn't going to be playing at his best. Ilyasova isn't, and neither is Bellinelli. Those guys were on fire in round one. And if I'm Miami, I mean, I'm thinking about it now, like, why didn't they just think of that? Why didn't they just decide, I'm not going to guard Ben Simmons at the three-point line and pretty much just going to force him to do other things? It didn't make sense to me. Okay? So now they're going back to Philly down 2-0. I mean, it's it's not an ideal situation, but it's probably about as good as you could want it now that you're down 2-0. At least you get to go back home. I mean, I still see people saying that Philly's going to take 2 games, and it's just a matter of maybe Boston's not getting enough respect here, or Philly's just that good at home. But, I mean, I got to say that I think Boston's going to end up taking 1 in Philly at least, I think, just given the way that they've played. Okay? Ben Simmons is in his own head. Brett Brown at the press conference after game 2, you could tell was extremely frustrated. Didn't really have too many answers for anything there. So it's a matter of, I mean, they got to make adjustments, but I'm not sure if they're going to be able to. Okay, I see this as a series where, kind of like with the old Detroit Pistons teams, with Isaiah Thomas, when they first started getting good, make the playoffs, you see the Boston Celtics who have been there year after year, have the experience, and you just lose for the first couple of times before eventually you get past them. I think this is one of those times, okay? I'm not going to go out and say the Celtics are going to sweep or anything like that. I mean, I can see the series going 7, but it's a matter of Boston takes 1 game in Philly in either games 3 or games 4. I mean, going back to Boston up 3-1, series could possibly end in 5, so we'll see. But, I mean, it's a matter of Ben Simmons has to figure out another way to be productive. I mean, he can't be taking out the game like that just because he can't score in the paint. Like, if anything, take some shots or do something. Do something. All right. So we're going to wrap it up here. Next up, we're going to be talking Houston versus Utah from Wednesday's game 2. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. So far today, we've talked Celtics Sixers, and we've talked Raptors Cavs. I mean, with the Raptors and Cavs series, it seems like that one's about to be over. Raptors look lost, and it just seems like, I don't know, maybe they're scared of the Cavs or something because they just haven't played well at all. All right, and as far as Philly and Boston goes, Boston's up 2-0 in that series. I mean, I'm not going to write off Philly like I have with Toronto. Philly still definitely has a chance. I mean, they could very well easily take 2 games in Philly and then bring it back to Boston for Game 5, tied 2-2. But that all just comes down to Ben Simmons. I mean, how well is he going to play? Who knows? All right. So there's that. I mean, my Raptors pick, them in 6, isn't looking too good. They very well could win 4 games in a row, which I don't think is going to happen. So I think it's just going to be Cavs winning that series. And then my Boston in 7 pick, I mean, it's a matter of, yes, it looks like they could win the series, but it's a matter of how many games. All right, so now we're going to head over to the West. We had a game on Wednesday that we haven't gotten to talk about yet. Jazz versus Rockets, okay? And I feel like this is the forgotten series, okay? There's no NBA TV series since they're all on TNT and ESPN now, but this is the one where no one's really paying too much attention to it, I feel. All right, both teams play tonight, so I'm going to watch the game for sure, but it's just a matter of, I mean, there's not really, like, Utah isn't really flashy, and with Houston, it's a matter of everyone expects them to win, so no one's really going to talk about it too much. All right, but either way, I mean, Game 2, we had Utah winning 116-108. Big win here. For the Jazz, you had Derek Favors with 10 points, 3 rebounds, shot 5 of 7. Royce O'Neal had 6 points, 4 rebounds, shot 2 of 5. Joe Ingles had 27 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, shot 10 of 13, 7 of 9 from the three-point line. Rudy Gobert had 15 points, 14 rebounds, shot 5 of 7. Donovan Mitchell, he had 17 points. And Donovan Mitchell didn't even really shoot the ball too well in this game either. But nonetheless, they still played really well. All right, he had 17 points, 11 assists, 5 rebounds, shot 6 of 21, 2 of 8 from the three-point line. Like, if you look at it, like, Donovan Mitchell had the best plus-minus out of anyone in the starting 5 of the Utah Jazz. He was at a plus 13. The next best one was Derek Favors with a plus 7. I mean, that's one thing that shows me that Donovan Mitchell can affect the game other than scoring. Like, he brings a lot to the table there. Off the bench, you had Jay Crowder with 15 points, 10 rebounds, shot 5 of 10, 3 of 6 from the three-point line. Dante Exum had 9 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, shot 3 of 7, 2 of 3 from the three-point line. And then you had Alec Burks with 17 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, shot 7 of 11 there. Okay. For the Rockets, you had Trevor Ariza with 5 points, 4 rebounds, shot 2 of 5. PJ Tucker struggled in this one, 2 of 9 from the field, 1 of 5 from the three-point line, had 5 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists. Did have 2 blocks and a steal, though. Was a plus 3, so he was productive in other ways. Clint Capella had 21 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, also had 2 blocks, shot 10 of 15 there. Chris Paul had 23 points, 3 steals, 3 assists, 5 rebounds, shot 8 of 19, 2 of 5 from the three-point line. James Harden, he had 32 points, 11 assists, 6 rebounds, shot 9 of 22, 2 of 10 from the three-point line. Not great there. Obviously, you'd expect a little bit more out of him. And I've noticed James Harden has had a couple of these games where he doesn't shoot the ball relatively well, and especially not from 3. And I mean, that's not acceptable there. Okay? The James Harden needs to be the best player for the Rockets and probably the best player in each game, every game. Okay? It's not a matter of he can choose to turn it on or choose to play okay on this game and choose to play better in the next. Like, no, he needs to be great every single game. And that's not asking too much either because of the fact that you're the best player on your team. It's just the way it is. It's got to be done, okay? But off the bench, you had Eric Gordon with 15 points, 6 rebounds, shot 5 of 16, 3 of 6 from the three-point line. Luke Mbah-a-Moute had 4 points in this one, 4 rebounds, shot 1 of 4. And then you had Joe Green, who only played 9 minutes in this one, had 3 points and was a minus 11, so that's not great there. All right, so like I said, Utah won this one 116 to 108, and it's a matter of Utah is that team where they're the team in the playoffs who probably gets the least amount of respect, okay? And, I mean, with Utah, I mean, it's just a matter of they don't have, like, a star, okay? The way they're doing all of this is just team ball. Okay, and people are probably saying, what about Donovan Mitchell? Donovan Mitchell could arguably be the rookie of the year, but isn't a star just yet. Okay, we got to pump the brakes there. Yes, he's a very good player. Probably going to become a star in no time. All right, I'm not saying he's not, but as of right now, he's just simply not a star. Okay, and with the Rockets, I mean, you got James Harden, Chris Paul. So on paper, I mean, they should be up 2-0 and probably getting ready to sweep eventually. And that's the one thing with this Utah team is that people have written them off because of the fact that there's nothing interesting about them, okay? And when I say interesting, like there's no James Harden, who's one of the best scorers in the game. There's no Chris Paul, who's one of the best point guards of all time, okay? You don't have any of that. You have Joe Ingles, who, I'll give you this, is the most underrated player in the NBA. Okay, you have Donovan Mitchell, who is one of the best rookies this year. You got Rudy Gobert, who's a nice center. But like I said, I mean, there's no best scorer in the league. There's no one of the best point guards of all time with this team. Okay? That's why I feel like they're not getting enough respect. But the way, I mean, Quinn Snyder has these guys playing, I mean, you got Royce O'Neal starting in the playoffs against the number 1 seed. And, I mean, he's playing fine. Had 6 points, like I said, 4 rebounds. He's not going to go out and pretty much just dominate. But nonetheless, he's going to do a job. Okay? This is the Boston Celtics of the West right here. Celtics over there out east, they don't got any stars right now. Yeah, you get Kyrie and Gordon Hayward, but those guys are hurt, so they don't really matter. Terry Rozier's not a star. Brown's not a star. Tatum's not a star. I wouldn't even consider Horford. Horford is an underrated type of star, but he's not really considered one, you know? All right, and then you got Brad Stevens, who knows how to utilize these guys' talents and pretty much put them in the best position in order to succeed. Okay, I mean, guys like Joe Ingles, who, I mean, he was with the Clippers at one point, and the Clippers just let him go. Comes to Utah, and he's probably their second most important player, if not third, if you want to make Gobert their second and Mitchell their first. Okay? Joe Ingles has played well. I mean, you got Donovan Mitchell, who you drafted, with the 13th pick? One of the best players on this, probably the best player on this team already. Jay Crowder, a guy who didn't really do too much in Cleveland once he got traded. Now he's putting up productive minutes off the bench. Dante Exum, a guy who, I mean, no one's really paid attention to, okay, is out here guarding James Harden and doing well at it also. All right. And Dante Exum is like sneaky, one of those sneaky athletic long type point guards. Like you don't really talk about it too much, but you don't really like realize the fact that, yeah, he's a very good player. Okay. And then you got Alec Burks, who I feel has been with the Jazz forever. Okay. Kind of like the forgotten man out here putting up 17 points on 7 of 11 shooting. I mean, the Jazz are a team that we need to take seriously. We need to talk more about them. Okay. They had control of this game throughout. It's not one of those where it's like, oh yeah, they took over in the second half. Like, no, from start to finish, the Jazz were the better team. Okay? And think about it. The 5 seed in the series was the better team against the 1 seed in that game. Okay? And I'm not going out saying that the Rockets should be panicking or anything like that, because that's not the case at all. I mean, it's 1-1 going back to Utah, but it's a matter of this series could go 7 games. And this series could end with Utah winning it. Okay? Which is just kind of ridiculous. I mean, seeing them and the Celtics doing what they're doing when no one expected them to. Okay? And yeah, people expected the Celtics to make the playoffs, but without Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward, I'm sure no one thought they'd do anything. I mean, give me a Celtics-Jazz finals instead of Warriors sweeping whoever else is out there. I'm sure I'd enjoy that a whole lot more, and I'm sure many other people would. But nonetheless, I mean, going back to James Harden, I mean, you can't go 2-10 from the three-point line there. I don't care that it's a bad night or whatever. You're the best player in your team. You need to be going from start to finish. Okay, there's no excuses here. None at all. If the Rockets don't end up making it to the Western Conference Finals, then this year is a failed one, no doubt. Okay? So it's going to be interesting to see how this series plays out. But I mean, Utah going back home tied 1-1 is probably best case scenario for them. I highly doubt the Rockets are going to be able to take 2 in Utah. Okay? And if anything, I'd say that Utah probably has a better chance of taking 2 than the Rockets do. Utah has arguably the best defense in the league. They play the best defense. Okay? They have a team where it's not just one player on offense or anything like that. I'm not saying that's how it is in Houston or anything, but the point I'm trying to make here is that everyone's got to go out here and do a job and contribute, and that's exactly what's happening here. Okay? So if I'm Houston, I mean, I'm not worried, but it's a matter of, like, you better realize that, like, this is a real series here. Okay? No one's going to talk about it or anything like that because everyone expects Houston to pretty much just knock them off in 5 games now. But it's a matter of Utah could win this in 6 if it came down to it. Okay? So we'll see what ends up happening. We've got both of those teams playing tonight. We'll talk more about that in the next segment, along with Golden State and New Orleans, along with anything else going on too. So stay tuned for that, and we'll be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. So far today, we've talked about all of the playoff games since Wednesday. So we've talked Philly, Boston, Cleveland, Toronto, and the Utah versus Houston. All right, we got Utah and Houston tied at 3-3 with the game tonight. Philly and Boston. Boston's up 2-0 on Philly, and then we got Cleveland up 2-0 on Toronto, and both of those teams play tonight too, or tomorrow night, I should say. So yeah, only Houston and Utah tonight, and then Golden State versus New Orleans. All right. So as you know, for the fourth segment, we usually talk about pretty much anything else going on in the world of basketball. All right. I mean, it's just pretty much playoffs, so we're just going to continue with the playoffs, talk about those. Kyle Lowry, after the game yesterday, talked about how the Raptors got to show more effort. And, I mean, yeah, it's effort on the defensive side of the ball. But, I mean, as far as everything else, I mean, I'm not really sure what else there is to do. I mean, DeMar DeRozan's playing well. Lowry himself is playing well. I mean, if he's talking as far as defense, then yeah, sure, you got to show more effort. But other than that, I mean, there's not really much else for them to do. Okay? And, I mean, crunch time is something that they do need to work on a little bit more. I'm not even sure how you really work on it. It's just a matter of if you're good with the ball in your hand late in the game, then you're good with it. But it's just a matter of, I mean, I've given up on the Raptors. Okay, I have. Why on earth would I continue to try and back them up when it just shows that they can't get it done? Okay? I tried before the series. I picked them to win in 6, but it's a matter of, I mean, it's just simply not going to happen. And like I said, I'm not sure if there's any Raptors fans out there that still think they got a shot, but if you do, I mean, why? Honestly. Okay? LeBron's out here putting up 40-point games like it means nothing when it actually doesn't mean anything because of the fact that it's just LeBron. All right? And as far as like the Raptors going into Cleveland, I mean, can you really expect them to do much? I mean, maybe they get a game, but you think they're going to take 2 in Cleveland? They take 2 in Cleveland. It's a brand new series. Let me tell you that. They take 2 in Cleveland, momentum on their side, going back to Toronto for Game 5, tied 2-2. That's their opportunity to win the series, all right, at least to get the series back on their side. But it's just a matter of, I just don't see it happening, okay? And, I mean, with the way I'm talking about it, I mean, it probably is going to end up happening because that's just how sports are. So we'll see what ends up happening. But as far as them putting in more effort, I mean, is that really all it takes just to beat the Cavs? I don't know. Okay. And then it seems like with Ben Simmons not playing well in the first 2 games, I mean, we got ESPN talking about how Donovan Mitchell sending his support for Ben Simmons. Allen Iverson offered him encouragement and a call. I mean, if we're at that point where we got people pretty much just already calling Ben Simmons, trying to get him out of his own head, then that's a little bit of a problem there. Okay. Like, I get he only scored 1 point in Game 2. But it's a matter of, I mean, Ben Simmons has just got to go and play his own game. I mean, he doesn't need Allen Iverson calling him or anything like that. I'm not like trying to knock Iverson for calling him or anything like that. But, I mean, it's just a matter of he's going to be fine. Okay? It's his rookie year. No one's expecting the guy to go out and pretty much lead this team on his own. All right? Playing in Boston in the playoffs is probably one of the hardest things to do in basketball. Okay? Just fact of the matter, it is. There's just something about Boston. Okay? And everyone says maybe it's just that little leprechaun that they got out there. Who knows? Maybe. But as far as Ben Simmons, I mean, he's going to be fine. It's not just like, I mean, he's just got to... Simmons in the offseason needs to go out and develop a little bit of a jump shot. Okay? It doesn't need to be a 3-point shot or anything like that, but at least go develop your mid-range a bit more. All right, because fact of the matter is you're not really going to reach your peak as far as being successful in the league unless you can shoot. Okay? That's just where the league's at right now. And you can blame Steph Curry for it, but unless everyone, like, in order to be like truly successful in this league, you need to be able to shoot. And Simmons just simply can't do that right now. Okay? So we'll see, but as far as the whole, I mean, everyone's giving Ben Simmons words of encouragement. That kind of does scare me a bit for the Sixers in this series. I mean, going forward, I mean, it's not going to be a problem in the next few years or anything like that because he's going to get better. He's going to learn how to deal with these situations. But, I mean, just as for right now, I don't think it bodes well for Philly in this series. Okay? And then, I mean, with Ty Lue, all right, chose to pretty much just keep Kevin Love in the lineup and stuff like that, keep continuing to play him. And Kevin Love, I mean, did well in Game 2 to pretty much repay Ty Lue for it. Made him look a whole lot smarter. Okay? And with the Cavs, I mean, if let's say Kevin Love gets back to playing the way Kevin Love knows how to play, I'm not saying back to like the way he did in Minnesota or anything like that because that's never going to happen. But as far as being a solid player for the Cavs, this team will be in the finals. Okay? And again, I don't think that Like, I think this is the worst team LeBron's had in quite some time, probably worse than his '07 team, and he took that team to the finals there too. But nonetheless, I mean, if Kevin Love's looking good, then Cavs are going to be very hard to beat. The fact of the matter is, when you got LeBron out here dropping 40 and Kevin Love playing well, you can't stop him. So, we'll see about it there. Knicks hired Dave Fizdale to be their head coach. I like the hire. I figure that Dave Fizdale was probably the top candidate out of everyone. Okay. And with the Knicks, I mean, it's a matter of, yeah, you brought in a head coach, but I feel like, I don't know, like with James Dolan and stuff, like the Knicks just get in their own way. Is Dave Fizdale going to fix everything? All right. And like with the Knicks and stuff, I mean, it's just a matter of they need a point guard. Okay. They need Trae Young or Colin Sexton. Ntilikina, I just don't really like him too much as a player. And then with Moutier, I mean, it's just a matter of, I don't think really Moutier is if you want to pretty much build up your team, I don't think he's the point guard you do that with. Okay? And with Trae Young in the draft, I mean, he's a facilitator. He's not just a guy who goes out and shoots the ball. He can pass the ball and do everything on offense. Okay? I'm not going to go out and call him Steph Curry or anything like that, but he does have a solid game. And I think like that's what the Knicks need. They need a guy who can go out, facilitate, and shoot the ball. I mean, when's the last time the Knicks had a truly great point guard? Have they ever had a truly great point guard? Marbury, he played what? Shooting guard, so I don't think he counts. I wouldn't consider him. So Marbury was great. I think Marbury is a Hall of Famer. Okay? Before you jump on me for that tip, go check the dude's stats. All right, averaged 19 and 7 in the league, and really his play didn't really diminish till his last 2 years in the league. Was always about a 20-point per game score. Okay, and it's not just the NBA Hall of Fame, it's the NBA Hall of Fame. Or yeah, it's the Basketball Hall of Fame, excuse me. Dude was a monster in China. Okay? He's got a statue and everything. So if it's the Basketball Hall of Fame but not the NBA Hall of Fame, I think Stephon Marbury needs to get in. But that's a conversation for a different day. Okay? But yeah, I mean, John Starks is probably the Knicks' best point guard ever. Right? Am I missing anyone? I don't think so. So yeah, the Knicks need a solid point guard. Okay? It's time. I mean, Trae Young with Kristaps Porzingis would be a solid little 1-2 duo. You got Michael Beasley, who, I mean, solid player this season. Okay? Very solid player. I'm not going to go out and say there needs to be a starter or anything for the Knicks, but I'd keep him around. Okay? And let's see. What else they got going on the Knicks? It's a matter you can start bringing in free agents, too. Okay? You're the New York Knicks. You're supposed to be like this little basketball hotbed where everyone wants to come play for you. But it's a matter of no one has. And I think maybe that has to do with the owner more than it does with the team itself. Okay? So we'll see, but I do like the Dave Fizdale hire. I mean, I feel like he did well with Memphis. It was just a matter of Memphis needed to go in a different direction because they were just completely starting everything over. All right, so I don't hate Memphis getting rid of him, but I do think the Knicks got this head coaching hire right. So we'll see. Seems like Kenny Smith's not going to be getting a head coaching job just yet. All right, so we got 2 games going on tonight. Like I said, we got Houston versus Utah and then Warriors versus Pelicans. I mean, this is a big game for the Pelicans here. You'd expect that. I'm not going to go out and say that they're going to win, but they play extremely well at home here. They possibly could bring out the W, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I got the Warriors winning this one, and the Warriors are favored by 4.5, and that's pretty low considering the fact of how well they've played so far in the playoffs. And then you got the Houston Rockets, like I said, against the Jazz. I'm going to go with the Rockets tonight. I'm not going to overthink things. I still think that the Rockets are the better team, but the Jazz are definitely going to make it a series, so I got the Rockets winning, and they're favored by 4.5 too, so that's pretty much all that's going on so far, or right now in the basketball world. I mean, it's just playoffs. So we're going to wrap it up here. Today we talked Cleveland versus Toronto. I mean, Toronto's got to get at least 1 game in Cleveland for games 3 and games 4. They could possibly get 2 games. If they do that, then, I mean, series is broken wide open, but I just don't see that happening. As far as Philly and Boston, or actually, let's make my picks for this weekend's games too, since we're not going to be here. So Saturday we got, the East teams playing. I'm going to go with Philly in that one. All right, I'm going to say that they're going to play well at home, and then I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Toronto in the first game in Cleveland. So I'm going to go Toronto. All right, then Sunday we got Warriors-Pelicans. This is a tough pick to make. I'm going to go Pelicans since I'm picking Warriors tonight. I'm going to go Jazz. I'm going to say the series goes back to Houston 2-2. All right, but either way, like I said, for the show, we talked about Cleveland, Toronto. We talked Philly, Boston. Boston's looking good. Ben Simmons isn't. We talked Utah versus Houston for Wednesday's game. And then for this segment, we talked David Fizdale, Stephon Marbury a bit, and pretty much anything else going on in the world of basketball. So thanks for listening. This is the GSMC Basketball Podcast. As always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. We'll be back on Monday to talk about this weekend's games. So stay tuned till then, and I'll talk to you later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.